And all right, we've got some breaking news coming out of the High Court in Pietermaritzburg. I'm going to ask our colleagues to bring that up, and we'll try to cross to our colleague Ayanda Mhlongo very shortly. Breaking news is that Judge Thomas Ncube has struck the application by the two Zulu princesses to interdict the pre-coronation of the roll. So it's been struck off the roll. We're going to try and get our colleague Ayanda Mhlongo on the line in just a moment, and let's see if we can get to her. So you would recall this breaking news that we've just had. Judge Thomas Ncube, we're going to try and get... All right, we're going to try and get to our colleague Ayanda Mhlongo in just a moment, but that's what we are getting in terms of breaking news at this particular point. Judge Thomas Ncube striking off the roll of the application by the two Zulu princesses. And of course, you would know that that matter was sitting before the Pietermaritzburg High Court. That application brought by Princess Thandoyenkosi Zulu, as well as Princess Ntombi Sosuthu Zulu Duma. I think we are going to proceed to Liezle Wilson at the moment and try to get that. And Liezle Wilson will continue. I guess she'll try to link up with Ayanda Mhlongo as quick as possible. All right, Ayanda Mhlongo is getting ready for us at the moment. We're going to try and connect to her as quick as possible. But that breaking news that we're bringing to you at this hour, of course, you would know Princesses Thandoyenkosi Zulu, as well as Princess Ntombi Sosuthu Zulu Duma, the first and second applicants in this particular matter. And the first respondent, of course, being Princess Zulu, as well as the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, the President of South Africa. I'm really trying to hear from our team at this stage if Ayanda is ready. We'll cross to her very shortly. She'll be ready with us very shortly. Just bear with us as we try to bring you this breaking news. The breaking news at this particular point is that matter has now been struck off the roll. We're hearing from our colleague Ayanda Mhlongo. Let's try to see if we can get her on the telephone as well. Perhaps that might be a little bit faster if we can, if we're able to get her on the telephone and perhaps have these visuals with you on screen. So Judge Thomas Ncube striking the application by the two princesses to interdict the pre-coronation of the roll. Going to try and speak to Ayanda. Ayanda Mhlongo, a very good afternoon to you. We have been trying to get hold of you. What's the latest there? I understand some breaking news coming out of the Pietermaritzburg High Court. What's the latest?
A very good afternoon, Griselda, and good afternoon to our viewers at home. Just a few minutes ago, Griselda, Judge Thomas Ncube, who was called to hear this urgent application by the two Amazulu princesses who had sought to interdict the ceremony, or the pre-coronation ceremony, which is taking place as we speak at Kwakangela Mankengane Royal Palace in KwaNongoma. The judge there, after hearing arguments from the parties, has struck the matter off the roll, saying that it is not urgent. The matter that was brought by the two princesses, Griselda, you'll have to bear with me, as you know, we've just come out of court at the moment. The matter was brought by Princesses Thandoyenkosi and Ntombi Sosuthu Zulu Duma of the Kwakhetho Mthandayo Royal Palace, and these are the daughters of Queen Sibongile Dlamini. You'd note yesterday that the Supreme Court of Appeal granted Queen Sibongile Dlamini and her two daughters leave to appeal a earlier Pietermaritzburg High Court ruling that dismissed the Queen's application, in that the Queen, one would remember, had sought a claim of half of the late Amazulu Queen Goodwill Zwelithini's estate, while the daughters had filed a separate application where they were challenging the validity of their father's will, arguing that it was forged. The Queen then decided to take that matter on review to the Supreme Court of Appeal. It has been quite complex, Griselda, I must say, in terms of all these court applications. I think a lot of of people at this point are now a bit confused as to what has been going on. I'm going to try and break it down a little bit for our viewers. Of course, so as I said, you had that matter that is now before the Supreme Court of Appeal relating to the King's will, where the first Queen Smongile Dlamini, wanted half of the Queen's, I beg your pardon, of the late King's estate. You then had the matter that was brought, or the application that had been brought by the late King's daughters, Princess Ntando Yenkosi and Princess Ntombi Zosutu, into a court where they wanted or challenging their father's will, saying it was forged. Let us see if we could get Advocate Moirane. Could we steal a minute from you? All right. We were trying there to speak to Advocate Maruma Moirane, who is representing the president. Of course, he came in almost towards the end of the arguments, and I'll get into his points in a minute, Criselda. But as I was trying to explain here, was the fact that there is then these cases. So you have the Queen's case that is now, she has now been granted an appeal, leave to appeal by the Supreme Court of Appeal. You then had the princesses matter, where they are saying that their father's will was forged. That matter is yet to be heard by the Pietermaritzburg High Court. And then, of course, you have the matter or the case that has been filed in the Gauteng High Court by Prince Mbonisi, who is also challenging the recognition of King Amazulu Kazwelithini by President Cyril Ramaphosa. So those are the matters involving the royal family currently. So coming to what happened today and this matter, Criselda, the princesses wanting to interdict and to get or request the court to halt the ceremony that is taking place, or the pre-coronation ceremony that is currently underway at the Gwakangela Mankengane Royal Palace in Gwanongoma, as I've said. And they're saying that following the decision yesterday by the Supreme Court of Appeal granting them leave to appeal, they feel then that this pre-coronation ceremony should not have taken place and should be halted until the matter, which is now going to come before the Supreme Court of Appeal, has been dealt with. Of course, they still have, in the order that was issued by the Supreme Court of Appeal yesterday, they have until the 10th of September to file papers or their formal now application to the Supreme Court of Appeal on that matter. And so today they were saying, or requesting the Pietermaritzburg High Court to issue this interdict, or to grant them this interdict to stop the pre-coronation ceremony that is taking place at Gwakangela Mankengane. Of course, the respondents now in the matter, including Nkosi Mangosuthu Buthelezi, the President of South Africa, President Cyril Ramaphosa, including the other wives or the other queens of the late King, also then coming in as respondents in this matter. I must say, Criselda, that it emerged in court that not all the lawyers for the respondents were present in court, and this was the arguments, to sum up the arguments by the respondents, or the lawyers representing the respondents, saying that they did not have enough time to be able to respond. In fact, they said, and I'll just go through one of the lawyers representing the respondents, Ms. Palmer, saying to the court that they felt that this application, and to quote her, that it was an ambush. She, in fact, taking the court through the events that happened yesterday, saying that at around 6:30 yesterday evening, they had been informed that it was going to be this application that was going to be made by the princesses. They saying that their clients then requested that they be served with the papers, or at least get the papers by last night, so that they could have adequate time to prepare themselves for today. She then said that their instructing attorney waited until 3 a.m. this morning, and they did not receive the papers until around 7 a.m. this morning. And based on that, she then said or told the court that they felt that this was an ambush and they did not have ample time to prepare for this matter. She also then explained to the court that the matter before the Supreme Court of Appeal relates to the late King's will, and that it had nothing to do really with the events that are taking place in KwaNongoma. These were, of course, similar arguments that were made by another lawyer representing three of the queens, who also asked the court to dismiss this application. They, in fact, had not even been prepared. They even apologized to the judge, saying that they did not even have affidavits or papers that had been prepared, and basically they were just working for arguments that they were delivering based on notes that they had prepared, and based on that they said that they just did not have enough time to be able to respond adequately. Another important point that was raised by the respondents' representatives to the court, Griselda, was the fact that the applicants are saying that the president, of course, as we know, on the 16th of March, the president issued a gazette recognizing King Amazulu, and thereafter, of course, they saying that on the 16th of this month, which was on Tuesday, they received, or their clients received an invitation to the coronation. Now, their argument was that why did the applicants wait 5 months before bringing a matter of this nature to the court? And also, let's say, right, if they felt that during the 5 months they couldn't then bring a matter of bring such an application to the court, they had from Tuesday, when their clients received an invitation to the pre-coronation ceremony, then they should have from Tuesday then submitted this application to the court. So based on all of that and the fact that they had 2 times in which they should have approached the court, they did not. They then requesting that the court dismiss this application that has been brought forward by the princesses. The Judge Thomas Ngube, in his judgment, saying that he's not going to deal with the matter at hand, but what he is going to speak to is he's going to deal with the urgency. And he then saying that deciding to strike the matter off the roll, saying that it wasn't urgent and that this is a matter that can still be ventilated by the courts. There are, of course, as I've mentioned, these other cases that are currently before various courts, and he's saying that the applicants should rather wait for those matters to be dealt with. Griselda?
Ayanda, I guess this is somewhat good news for the ceremony which is currently underway. There seemed to have been some delays in terms of what was taking place. Perhaps we're not sure. Perhaps they were awaiting some sort of outcome from what is coming out of this court. But I mean, we're unlikely to see an end to the squabbles and perhaps even further legal challenges, judging by what we've seen happen over the past a couple of weeks coming out of the royal family, is it?
Yeah, Griselda, I take it that the delays at Kwakhangela Mankengane Royal Palace were as a result now of this urgent application that they probably felt to the members of the royal family that are responsible or dealing with that pre-coronation event would have wanted to wait for this court outcome. But in effect, Griselda, as you said, this now gives the green light for that pre-coronation ceremony to take place. And you are correct that this is by far not the end of these legal challenges and these battles between members of the royal families. I've said that we already have these other matters that are before the court. You now have the one or the two in the Supreme Court of Appeal, and then you have the princesses matter where they are challenging the validity of their father's will here in this court. And then you have Prince Mbonisi's application. Prince Mbonisi, of course, being the brother of the late king, as we know that he has also filed papers at a Gauteng High Court. So it's still going to be a long way ahead, Griselda, for the royal family, but certainly from what has happened here today, this now gives the green light for the pre-coronation event to continue at Kwakhangela Mankengane Royal Palace. Griselda?
Ayanda Mhlongo, thank you very much indeed. Just live outside the High Court in Pietermaritzburg. On that breaking news, Judge Thomas Ncube striking off a roll that application by the two Zulu princesses to interdict the pre-coronation that is currently taking place. Liezle Wilson is going to take over the show now, and she's going to be continuing a conversation with Ayanda Mhlongo. And from here on the agenda, as you can see, Liezle Wilson standing by for us.
Thank you very much, Casalda. Again, just bringing us the breaking news from our reporter, Ayanda Mhlongo, giving us the latest there. Judge Thomas Ncube ruling that the matter has now been struck off the roll, citing that that it was not urgent. Again, this all taking place at the Pietermaritzburg High Court. Now, a lot happening ahead of the Amazulu nation set to install the new king. A lot of procedures leading up to the official coronation of the Amazulu king. As we see the cattle kraal entering ceremony that is set to be taking place today. Now, King Zulu will today be performing the ritual, the ceremony, as it's called, Ukungena Esibayeni, which is loosely translated as the entering of the kraal, the ceremony which, according to Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, is closer in nature to a traditional prayer and ritual, wishing the king, of course, well, declaring the people's loyalty to his majesty. And as we know, it's all being held at the KwaKangela Mankengani Royal Palace in Nongoma. We're going to be crossing to our reporter, Simpiwe Makanya, who is on the ground for us, bringing us the latest there. Simpiwe, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. You've been bringing us rolling coverage of what's been transpiring in Nongoma. Perhaps you can walk us through what is currently transpiring on your end. And lots of colorful visuals coming through of people entering, you know, the venue, perhaps awaiting the king to undergo that sacred ceremony.
Well, good afternoon to you, Liezle. Good afternoon to the viewers as well at home. As you rightfully indicated in the introduction there, that there's quite a lot of activity happening at KwaKangela Mankengani Royal Palace. So that's big for you. I see thousands of maidens have converged. And let's look at see where we are going to be expecting the king of His Excellency needs to be addressing all those who are in attendance here. And the big news coming out of the High Court, my colleague Ayanda Mhlongo, with regards to the judge dismissing the agency aspect of that application, which was brought by the late princesses. And here at KwaKangela Mankengani Royal Palace, a lot of jubilation, a lot of excitement among those who are here. Many of them coming from different walks, different walks of life, rather. You know, you have young people, you have old people, and they are basically echoing the same sentiment. They are saying that they are here to make the history being made as king.
All right, as we understand throughout the weekend, we've had some technical challenges due to signal within the area. Everyone doing their best to perhaps ensure that the best quality coverage is coming through. But some of these challenges we obviously cannot mitigate again. So we're struggling to hear from our reporter, Simpiwe Makanya, who is in Nongoma, where the ceremony is set to be taking place. So as soon as we're getting back on the line, perhaps for more on this, we've also got Professor Musa Xulu. He's an ethnomusicologist. He's on standby to give us the latest, also coming to us live from Nongoma in attendance at the ceremony. Prof, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. We do understand that there are some technical challenges at this point, but you know, as we know, it's an important procedure that ultimately leads up to the official coronation of the Amazulu king. It's you know, loosely translated as we in English as the cattle kraal entering ceremony, and it's a sacred rite rather performed in line with Zulu customs. You're in attendance, you understand what's happening. Perhaps with the visuals and what you're witnessing at this point, walk us through what is currently transpiring, who is arriving, and perhaps what is set to take place in terms of the lineup for the rest of the day in terms of the rites and ceremony.
I can hear you, Liezle, but as you say, the reception is not very good. At the moment, the Zulu maidens are performing Zulu women's music. But in the cattle enclosure, we call it cattle enclosure instead of cattle kraal, there are rituals that are going on there. Some of them are very secret, so that, and it's deep down, so if I go down there near the cattle enclosure, I will lose this very little signal. People are arriving, delegations from Swaziland. I've just met with kings from Malawi, from Zambia, from Zimbabwe. I've just met with Minister in the Presidency, Mondli Kongobele, provincial leaders in the legislature, mayors and everybody. There must be, at the moment, I can estimate around 5,000 people milling around here. There is an air of excitement because eventually what the nation has been waiting for, and it's very, it's proper that I say the nation, because when I talk to Banda kings, I talk to kings from Northwest, Debele, they all say the Zulu kingdom must be right. We're looking at you guys. So everybody's excited today. The people that are arriving here are singing and dancing. They are in traditional attire. Everybody is talking about this one event only. As I said, there must be, at the moment, more than 5,000 people of all colors, not just Zulus only, not just black people. There's also lots of white people that have come here. I have seen mayors arriving from the district municipalities. Mayor Ngubane is arriving now. It's an exciting day, my sister. It's very exciting. What is going to happen in the next 1 hour or so? The king will emerge from the cattle enclosure and will come to join the rest of the people here. There will be some speeches and a lot of singing and dancing of Amahubo songs, which are songs that connect the living with the departed, so that when the king is on the throne, he's not ruling alone. It's a spiritual journey that he's undertaking. When you meet with him, you will know that from a spiritual point of view, he is with King Shaka, he is with King Tingane, he is with all the kings that were there before him. It's a big day here in Nongoma.
Absolutely, Prof. Thank you so much for giving us the latest there on what's transpiring. I mean, for those who've tuned in, for those who want to understand who King Misizulu Kazweletini is, perhaps his lineage, obviously the son of King Goodwill Zweletini, Gabegi Zulu, as well as Queen Mantombi Dlamini. I mean, can you walk us through his history, how he was raised, perhaps, you know, what are some of those influences as he ascends to the throne?
He was born to be a king. The rituals that get performed only for the child who's going to be the future king were performed at Hlabisa Hospital, not far from here, where he was born. He was not born in a labor ward. A medical doctor had to vacate a house, which was then cleansed, so that the actual birth took place in that house. And all the rituals were performed in that house. He's born of Queen Mantombi. She comes from the Swati kingdom. Her father is King Sopuza II, and her brother is the actual king of Swatini right now. As a result of that blood, meeting with the blood of the Zulu royalty, that is how he becomes a king. It's not because of his age and so on. The firstborn of such a marriage produces a king, not only among the Zulus, but among many other African kingdoms here in South Africa and Africa in the diaspora. He grew up here, he started schooling here, he went to private schools like Mighton House. He then went on to study abroad in the USA. He's a businessman in his own right. He's been operating in the mining sector. So he's a very modern king. He speaks Zulu, English, as well as Siswati, and a bit of Afrikaans. He is highly traveled in many parts of the world, even before he became king. He's well known in the SADC region in terms of his business activities and so on. The people who are here, they know that this is the real one. It's not some kind of opportunistic arrangement. So, yes, he's king now. He's 47 years. On the 23rd of September next month, he's going to turn 48. And he'll already be on the throne. This ceremony today, you can have a look at it as a traditional kind of Zulu coronation ceremony. The event where President Ramaphosa will be invited, he will be coming to hand over the certificate, which is already there. That event will take place at Moses Mabhida Stadium at a date that is going to be announced very soon.
Professor, you speak of King Zulu turning 47 on the 23rd of September. And I wonder, you know, as we look at the socio-economic conditions that the world is probably experiencing as he ascends to the throne and takes over, what are some of the more pertinent issues that he's going to have to face, to grapple with, to perhaps also hone in on as he ascends to the throne, perhaps not only for the Zulu nation?
No, a lot of people in SADC who talk to us as in the entire Liezle who have phoned us, a lot of people, a lot of kingdoms have said what is happening here is not just for the Zulu nation. It's for the whole of Africa and the diaspora. There are kingdoms in America, in the USA, there are those indigenous kingdoms there. They have an interest here and they will be watching the recordings of what is going on here. So it's much, much bigger. He becomes king when we've just emerged from the ravages of the coronavirus. And I'm told, I was talking to High Commissioner Sbundebele, who is the High Commissioner for South Africa in India, and he was saying that the world at the moment is looking at economic development, at social empowerment, is looking at human resources renewal in a manner that has not been seen before. And we have to sit down now and reconfigure how does a monarchy perform, how does it operate in a democratic society. And this is not going to be an answer only for the Zulus. It's going to be an answer for all the other kingdoms that are found in South Africa, because he is a king within democracy. He will need to stand up and rise up and be able to have good relations with government, not only here, but also in neighboring states, so that we can begin to receive investment. I'm telling you, one of the biggest investments that should be happening is on Zulu cultural heritage tourism, because the word Zulu is well branded all over the world. But the king, we've been talking to him now over the past few weeks, is looking at how do we put together, package that, because if you look at world tourism now, 60% of tourism is accounted for from cultural heritage tourism. So it is there. It's a matter of turning the resources around into what can create new opportunities for young people, new opportunities for women, new opportunities for everyone. Also, and importantly, new opportunities for rural development, which is very important these days.
Yeah, absolutely. Professor Musa Xulu, we're actually going to be joined by my esteemed colleague, Griselda Lewis. She's going to be on standby with us throughout this ceremony that's obviously taking place. An important day, as we heard from the professor, not only for the Zulu nation.
Absolutely, and all what we've been seeing unfolding throughout the course of the morning, the breaking news that you also see on your screen at the moment, this ceremony has certainly not gone on without any hiccups. We've seen the two princesses wanting to interdict what we're seeing on our screen at the moment, and the judge basically seeing no urgency in that. Let's go to Bongani Gema. I understand he's ready at this particular point. Bongani, very good afternoon to you once again. What are you seeing there on the ground?
Rituals are still busy, and there are great singers, different singers. I think I can count the who were singing their praises to the king, or chanting praises of the king. Zulu are just spotted here. The minister in the presidency, Umoji Kumubele, who was also just seated here above me in the picture, is also inside. The color case is also representing the presidency of South Africa, because as you all know, the king was recognized by President Cyril Ramaphosa and it's been gazetted. We've also heard that the application brought to the Pietermaritzburg High Court has been struck off the roll, so it seems like the proceedings are now going to continue. The king has not made his way inside the crowd. We are still waiting for him to come inside the crowd with other senior members of the royal household. So it is still very much a waiting game for us.
They will be performing the
Right. Throughout the morning, we've obviously seen technical challenges coming through from the signal in Nongoma. But again, Bongani Gema, our reporter on the ground, giving us the latest on what's transpiring as the ritual unfolds. Actually, let's bring Professor Professor Kulu back into the conversation. Professor, you are in Nongoma, and you obviously have been witnessing what's been happening, an ethnomusicologist in your own right. And you're speaking about the maidens now, as we can see in our screens. They are singing songs. They are also standing, waiting. Perhaps you can walk through what the songs signify, what they translate to in English, and what really is transpiring for those who are not privy to understanding isiZulu at this point.
Yeah, we'll get back to the professor. We seem to have lost a connection with him.
Okay.
But, you know, what we've been seeing, and we're expecting, of course, ukungena esibayeni, the ritual itself, we have been saying, is a crucial part of the Zulu culture, one of the most important procedures leading up to the official coronation of the Amazulu king. If we can, Liezle, cattle crawl entering ceremony. And let's bring back the professor. Professor, good afternoon. It's Griselda Lewis joining Liezle here this afternoon in studio. We're headed, I guess, towards that moment of ukungena esibayeni, the entering of the kraal, as our colleagues are telling us on the ground. Talk us through how this ritual happens. What happens when King Mr. enters? I know it's a sacred thing, a sacred rite which is performed in line with Zulu customs, but what can you share with us in terms of what happens?
What happened was that he had to go to the cattle enclosure here in Kangela Makengan. Unfortunately, it's a little bit down there by the river, and if I cannot connect with you when I am there, but I can tell you that he went with a group of Amazulu and senior the Prime Minister of the Zulu Nation. You must remember that in Zulu culture and history, it is the Prime Minister of the nation and the king who introduces the king to the nation. Once the Prime Minister has said, here is our king, then he is our king. So he went into the kraal, a bit of dancing, a bit singing of Amahubo songs. Zulu Amahubo songs are ritual music. Each clan has its own set of Amahubo songs. But what happened here was that they sing the old ones that were sung by the olden kings, like the ones that were composed by King Shaka, the ones that were composed by King Tingane, etc., and etc. They sing those songs so that they invite the participation of the ancestors. What has happened after that is that the king has been taken into a secluded hut within the kraal. There he's going to be with not just the senior, the Prime Minister, etc. He's also going to be with traditional healers who will give him the powers of medicine that is derived from the nature around us here. Kingship and nature are very much related.
Prof, I was asking, another analyst who was speaking to a bit earlier on, and I said, would I be correct if I said that, while this ceremony is presumed, the ceremony itself of ukungena esibayeni amounts to an anointing of the king of the Zulu nation, however, not too much of that sense. Instead, it's closer in nature to a traditional prayer and basic ritual, wishing the king well and basically declaring the people's loyalty to His Majesty the King. Would that be the correct presentation of it?
Yes, definitely. It is a form of prayer, and you must know that this ancestral prayer, not anyone, it's not like Christian church where anyone can pray. Here, you need the most senior members of the Zulu royal family to be present. The most senior members of the family are the ones who talk directly to the ancestors. Not anyone can talk directly to the ancestors. The person who does that must be very old, must have a history, must know the things that happened before, must be able to tell us the story, what happened in 1954, etc. So Prisoner Hospital is right there with also the Prince of Wafishinland. They are there with also the matriarchs of the Zulu nation, the oldest queen. They do the praying, but it's a praying that goes with singing and dancing. And towards the end, they are assured that the ancestors are singing and dancing with them. And so the ancestors, wherever the king goes, the spirit of the ancestors will be there with them. The cattle enclosure is a kind of temple in Zulu cultural religion. It's a kind of temple. That's where all the ancestors and ancestral spirits are to be found.
All right, Prof. Thank you for contextualizing that. We've got some visuals on our screens right now. We can see some of the Zulu maidens. They've been dancing. They've been chanting some songs. You've spoken about the Amazulu songs that are also part of the ritual ceremony. And I wonder, if you could speak to what they translate to.
Just very quickly before we do that, Liezle, Prof, just bear with us for a second. Information that we're getting from our colleagues at this point, Bongani Gema, who is at Kwakangela Makengane, is telling us that the king has entered the kraal and went straight into the secluded section of the kraal, and he was accompanied by Amakosi. Prof, you've seen that. How significant is this particular moment now?
Yes, although I didn't hear the last part of your question, but Amakosi, you must remember that the Zulu kingdom is a federal kingdom. It consists of various clans who have decided to come together and form one big kingdom as a result of King Shaka in the early 1800s, uniting the Zulu kingdom. So it is important for Amakosi to embrace King Amazulu as their king, because they are his agents on the ground. And under Amakosi, the next level is in Dona. And then after that, Amapoisa and so on, not the SAPS. That is the political governance of the kingdom. And then, of course, we have support structures like Indonesian and so on, which are always there since 1928, when King Solomon formed Inkatha Zulu. So you will find that all these structures have got to be there. And I've spoken to a lot of Amakosi who I know, and they are saying now, as far as they're concerned, it is over. There's no dispute. The king has always been on the throne, but now even the traditional authorities, the chiefdoms, have now embraced the king. They'll be paying their annual dues and visitations to the king without any hindrance or fear of anything.
Yeah, but after all the pomp and ceremony is done, Prof, another conversation that I was having a little bit earlier on, Liezle, was that the unification of the Zulu nation is what many will be looking to, in particular when you look at the kind of attention that there is within his own family. How does he then plan to inspire that kind of confidence to his people, where within his own household we are seeing, even at a moment at which it's supposed to be a moment of celebration, there are other members of the family that have gone to court this morning. That's been dismissed. But that is certainly something that many will be looking to, isn't it?
Some members of the Zulu, I can't move, unfortunately. Some members of the Zulu royal household are confusing two things. They are not ruling over the Zulu nation. It is the king who is ruling. They are not ruling at all. And if that fact can come to them and they can understand it, it will go a long way towards getting peace. The kind of confidence that we see here, I am praying, and we are in talks now with Amakosi from other nations in South Africa, that the Ndebele Amakosi will need to rise up, to stand up and be counted. The Kekanas, the Bapetis, all the Amakosi in South Africa. We got an invitation from the Khoisan as Indo-Pacific to come and address their conference sometime later this year. They have to understand that knowledge in the context of a democratic state. I think the Zulus have been able to master the art of regenerating their kingdom, while at the same time embracing the democratic state that we live in. That is essentially, that is what will become a form of modernization of kingdoms. That understanding is not a way of going back. It's a way of moving forward to say, since we cannot do away with kingdoms, we have to modernize them. How do we modernize them? We capitalize on the knowledge that exists, like we in Indonesia and universities that work with us, like University of Zululand, are doing, spreading this knowledge, recording it, and making sure that every kingdom in South Africa has a library, has an archive of this knowledge, so that we don't have all these conflicts in future and disputes which are very unnecessary.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Prof. It's been an absolute pleasure having you with us, walking us through some of the customs, the importance and significance of the rituals and customs that are taking place today. Again, Griselda just announcing that the king has officially entered the cattle kraal entering ceremony. Yep. I wonder how long that's going to last. Perhaps also immediately, you said, as soon as that's completed, Prof, he will be announced by the Prime Minister. How long is that said to be taking place for?
The king is likely to come up any moment now, maybe let me say within the next 1 hour. And then, of course, the Prime Minister announced the king on the 8th of May, 2021. So he is already on the throne. These rituals are meant to strengthen his kingship. It's not like he's not a king on the throne. They are meant to strengthen his kingship. And of course, one of the most positive things that happened was when our President Cyril Ramaphosa endorsed, based on the submission that was made by the Zulu royal family, and in line with the 2003 and the 2019 Traditional Leadership Act, which say that you must tell the state, you must tell government, what are your customs that you use when you appoint the next king? And what we are telling the nation today, and we've been doing the past few days, is that the king is on the throne as a result of the Zulu custom that says, being born from a royalty to a royalty, the firstborn there becomes the king.
Prof, thank you very much indeed. I know you spent...
thank you.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much for sharing some insights into this rich culture with us here on SABC News. Of course, ukungena esibayeni, the entering of the kraal, these live pictures from Nongoma in KwaZulu-Natal, one of the important procedures leading up, Liezle, to the official coronation of the Amazulu king. Cattle kraal entering ceremony that has now happened. We're hearing from our colleague Bongani Gema. Ukungena esibayeni kwesilo. That's what they would have said in isiZulu, a sacred rite which is being performed, and in line with Zulu customs, and traditionally one of the customs that is, performed before the coronation itself. An important aspect of this, and King Misizulu, of course, being led into that particular kraal by the traditional Prime Minister of the Amazulu, Nkosi Buthelezi.
You know,
And
Griselda, I'm
basically, yeah.
I'm looking at the significance of this day, perhaps also just how we are able to tell our own stories. You know, we heard from Prof, this is not just about the Amazulu nation and perhaps getting them unified. It's about for Africa, it's for the diaspora. And, you know, archiving this, having access to this for future generations to come. I think this is going to obviously play a significant role as we're going to witness live the king very shortly. We heard from Prof coming through and being announced as the king. This ahead of the official coronation ceremony that's set to take place a little later.
You would recall as well, as I indicated, also accompanying him inside the kraal, Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. And with that, you would know a couple of days ago that many people had, you know, in trying to understand this culture, he had basically sent out a statement saying that that performing the ritual does not amount to being installed as a king of the Zulu nation. In fact, it's presumed as a ceremony, ukungena esibayeni, amounts to the anointing of the king of the Zulu nation. However, that not being the case, instead closer in nature to a traditional prayer and a ritual wishing the king well and declaring the people's loyalty to His Majesty the King. So essentially this is what's taking place. You know, the presence of Amabuto and the maidens which you're seeing on our screen as well is all part of the pomp and ceremony. But I think once all of this has settled, what's going to be very interesting to see, Liezle, is how they're going to be able to navigate some of the challenges that the royal family is facing, because in order for the work to be done, the royal family itself is going to be seen to be united, and that has been quite a challenge, of course, you would know, given the fact that you had a ceremony. You know, this ceremony is taking place after Princess Magade had performed the same ritual the previous week, and there was a lot of confusion. I think it was the weekend of the 13th of August, if I was not mistaken, when an opposing faction of Zulu in the Amazulu royal family had basically held the ukungena esibayeni, entering the same or similar, if I can, a ritual at the Enkonyeni Royal Palace, so traditionally crowning Princess Magade as the king of Amazulu. We saw a lot of eyebrows being raised pertaining to that particular aspect, and many asking questions about how now this particular ceremony was going to take place, given that that is what happened. Prince Magade Jackson Zulu, of course, being the firstborn son of the late King Goodwill Zwelithini, born out of wedlock. He's also from the Kwakhangela Makengane Palace, and on the 13th of August, you would recall, a faction of the Amazulu royal family opposed to Mrs. Zulu, succeeding his late father, basically traditionally crowned Princess Magade as the king of the Zulu nation. So the ritual of entering the kraal, which we talked about, ukungena esibayeni, was also performed for him. So once all the pomp and ceremony is done, he's going to have to play the role of unifying his family. If at all, he's going to aspire confidence in unifying or keeping the Zulu nation united.
And you speak about the dynamics that have been folding prior to this. Again, we know that the royal feuds is not a new thing. You look at the history of the Zulu nation, the ascendancy of the Zulu throne. I mean, there have been some precarious undertakings.
From the days of Shaka.
Exactly. So to see this happening in 2022, it's really been something for us to archive and go down in history. Griselda, you were on air, in fact, just before you joined me here. You're speaking to Ayanda Mhlongo. I mean, there was that court interdict that was struck off by Judge Thomas Ngube, saying that it was in fact not an urgent application. So it seems, you know, behind the scenes, there's still so much more unfolding as this day progresses.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, if we talk about that challenge, initially, Liezle, if we go back, the Amazulu princesses Ntandoke Nkosi Zulu and Ntobizo Sotho Zulu Duma had basically filed these papers in this court, and they wanted this pre-coronation ceremony that we're seeing, stopped pending the outcome of the Supreme Court of Appeal application. We recall on Friday that the Supreme Court had granted the Amazulu Queen, Sibongile Zulu, and the two daughters leave to appeal that Pietermaritzburg High Court ruling that had earlier dismissed her application to halve the late estate of King Goodwill Zwelithini's estate. So the lawyers basically for President Cyril Ramaphosa, who was represented by Advocate Moerane SC, basically saying or arguing that there was no urgency in this application, saying that it was a self-created urgency on the part of the applicants, and it also asked the court to dismiss the matter with cast. That was basically what the other legal representatives had been arguing for, and also asking the court to dismiss the application, saying there was simply no urgency. The president also saying that he was made aware of the interdict via a third party, and Moerane FC basically telling the court that the king had already entered the kraal. So that was essentially dismissed, and Judge Thomas Ncube basically saying, or striking off the roll, this application by the two princesses. So as the ceremony goes on, where Bongani Kema is, who you'll be speaking to, there's a lot more happening behind the scenes, and I don't think it's going to be the end of it just yet.
Nope, the day gets more interesting by the minute. Bongani Kema, you are on the ground, and I believe you are connected once again. If you can hear us, perhaps walk us through what is transpiring on your end, imminent that the incoming king is set to be announced.
Yes, the king has now entered the kraal. He was accompanied by Makosi. They had a lion skin. They blocked us from seeing the king. I mean, I cannot tell you what sort of regalia he was clad in when he entered the crowd. They made sure that they blocked us from seeing that. And then they also directed us that we are not allowed actually to take photos of him entering the crowd. So all cell phones, we were instructed to put them away, because even our cameras, we did not film the king coming into the crowd. So they made sure that we did not see the session. So now it's inside the crowd. Amakosi have exited. It's inside the crowd with people I do not, because I was not able to see who are the people seated in the crowd. But I guess there are people who are trusted, his trusted subjects and other senior members of the royal household, where they will then be performing that ritual that is a secret. We are not supposed to know what is happening. So we'll wait here until the king has exited. Always speaking earlier, I mentioned to you that I did spot Minister Mondli, the minister in the presidency, who I guess is here to represent the presidency, and President Cyril Ramaphosa. Also the Amazulu Prime Minister is also here. He was seated in a chair here. He did not go into that secluded area where the ritual is going to be performed. He's seated here with the Amabutho, who are busy now singing, continuing singing their hymns and reciting praises until the king exits the crowd. So then we will the next step that is going to take place from there.
Bongani, so what happens after this? The king has already entered the kraal. What happens from then? I guess, will he then move to the tent, and how are we expecting proceedings to then unfold?
We are expecting him to, when he comes out of the crowd, he must, we were told there's going to be a viewing area, or rather, because that was the program that they told us earlier this week, that there's going to be a viewing area where the media will also be able to see the king, or they'll tell us which gate is going to be using when he exits the car and back to the palace. So we'll wait and see what happens when he does exit the secluded area. We are hoping that maybe he may have an interaction with the public, but we were told that today is not a day of speeches. There won't be any speeches that are going to be taking place. So it might happen that when he exits the car, he may go straight to his palace, and you'll be left here to witness the singing of the hymns and the reciting of praises.
Bongani Kema, we obviously also heard the ruling by the High Court in Pietermaritzburg earlier on. I wonder, with the matter being struck off, has that impacted dynamics at all? What's happening on the ground, perhaps, as the different
any reaction there also
to that urgent court ruling?
Well, I guess for the princesses it has been a blow, but I can tell you that here there hasn't been an announcement made about this application. I mean, there was not even an announcement made about that application has been made. So I guess most of the people who are inside the car, those who do know, they may have found out, through the news media. But I guess majority of the people here are not even aware that there is such an application that was brought to the court. But I can tell you that earlier in the morning, when we were speaking with the different people who are gathered here, they were saying that they do not care, what happens demands at the court for them, their minds have been made up. They will, be loyal to King Amazulu. Whatever happens, they are saying that they know, according to, the custom that has been said by Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, that it was said long time ago that the king is going to come out of the Rokangela Amankengane Royal Palace of Queen Umantombe Zulu of Eswatini. So for them, they are following that tactic and they're saying they're not moving, they are not shaken. Whatever happens at the court, in fact, they were saying that they are prepared to continue supporting the king. So I guess as the day progresses and the news do gather, because we are still hoping that we are going to get a chance to speak with other members of the royal household, if not Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, to give us, their reaction to this application, because I'm sure they've already heard that there is an application. I guess maybe that may have been another reason why it took a long time for the king to come out, or rather to arrive, because we are told that these proceedings are going to take place at midday. It's way past midday now, and the king has only just now entered the shop.
Any noticeable faces around that crawl, Bongani, especially because we know that there has been contest to what is taking place today?
Yes, I think we are witnessing only the people who have been always closer to King Mr. Zulu. I can count Umntwana Utulani, Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, the faction and the princesses, the sisters of King Mr. Zulu and his brothers. But I haven't spotted any other from the other factions who are contesting his legitimacy to the throne. We haven't spotted them anywhere near the palace. We did speak earlier on, speak to another member of the royal household, Umntwana Uvanana Wakaminyamanzi. He is there, I guess, with others of his relatives past, namely Prince Mbonisi, Umntwana Umandla, who is supporting Umntwana Smarate. They are not part of this proceeding, so I guess they have decided to stay away because of this contest that is taking place.
Bongani, thank you very much. Indeed, it's going to be a very long day for you and our other colleagues on the ground. Thank you very much indeed for the early morning rise. You're still going to be there for quite some time.
Absolutely.
But that seems so.
That ritual, ukungena esibayeni.
Ukungena esibayeni.
Wesilo.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much.
I also learned a few. Mtaki, who's sitting behind the scenes there as well, the director of the show. He'll tell you.
He was keeping us on the straight and narrow.
All right, so that's what we're going to leave the show, right?
Yeah.
Flo Ledwaba is coming up next with SA Today. And I see she just put up on Twitter, just bear with me 1 second, I'm telling you about 2 seconds. She says, Yakhala ngempela for me today. She's got a book which is called The Myth of Iron, Shaka in History. So she's coming equipped. Stay tuned to SABC News. Flo Ledwaba is up next on SA Today.
Well, from us, until next time, it's goodbye for now. Thank you.